Britain is ready to fight over Taiwan, the UK Defense Secretary says. This is your favorite half Chinese. Now, before we continue, please like the video, share, and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you. And again, the UK wants to start an unprovoked war against China, just like they've done 3 times before in their history. So here it says, Britain's Defense Secretary has stated that the UK is prepared to fight in the Indo-Pacific thousands and thousands and thousands miles away from their own home, if necessary, in one of the clearest signals yet of UK alignment with key allies in the region over tensions involving Taiwan. Tensions of which they agree upon that are not their tensions and are for the people of China to resolve on their own as they are their internal affairs. But we will prove that later in the video, so stay tuned. Here it says, if we have to fight as we have done in the past, Australia and the UK are nations that will fight together, we exercise together, and by exercising together and being more ready to fight, we deter better together. So what they actually are saying, we want to start a war against China, more or less, because these are none of their affairs. What is it that they want? Do they want to colonize Taiwan maybe? Because, you know, the UK already colonized Hong Kong before, and they also colonized a part of Tibet before. That is actually the part that India and China are having this territorial dispute over. That's exactly that part that was forced by force and taken by the Brits. And the Qing dynasty at that time had to sign it off. And that's also another proof that Tibet is a part of China already, even since the Qing dynasty. Anyway, we're going to look at what the UK position is on the province of Taiwan. This is from the China Exchange of Ambassadors, 13 March 1972. And here it says, Sir Alec Douglas-Home, I am obliged to the Right Hon. Gentleman for his general welcome for this move. The Right Hon. Gentleman asked whether Taiwan is part of China. I would express the position as follows. The government of the United Kingdom acknowledged the position of the Chinese government that Taiwan is a province of the People's Republic of China. Both the government of the People's Republic of China and Taipei maintain that Taiwan is a part of China. We held the view, both at Cairo and at Potsdam, that Taiwan should be restored to China. That view has not changed. We think that the Taiwan question is China's internal affair to be settled by the Chinese people themselves. And then in 2025, they say Britain ready to fight over Taiwan, says Defense Secretary. I would call it a war secretary because I cannot remember when there was a time that Britain was defending itself from another nation. My screen is too small to just list all the wars, all the unprovoked wars of aggression that the UK has started in its small history. So here we are understanding a couple of things. What do we understand from this part? And this is from the UK Parliament itself, right? The gentleman asked whether Taiwan is part of China. I would express the position as follows. The government of the United Kingdom acknowledged the position of the Chinese government that Taiwan is a province of the People's Republic of China. It's very important to just remember that they say the People's Republic of China and not the Republic of China, because I will make you understand why in a minute. So they actually acknowledge that it is a province of the People's Republic of China. So why would they say that Britain ready to fight over Taiwan? And maybe you understand now that my thought is, oh, so you want to colonize it. A lot of Chinese people will think like that. And I think that the British now also understand that this is something that you should not be doing, right? Now, the other part is very interesting, where they say both the government of the People's Republic of China and Taipei maintain that Taiwan is a part of China. So, what do they mean by that? Well, a lot of people think that Taiwan is an independent island, just want to manage itself, has no ill will at all, and they just want to be left alone, and China wants to have it because they're expansionist, right? That's the consensus in the West, or at least that is how they want to frame it, right? They want to frame it because they want to deter China, while they acknowledge that Taiwan is a part of China. In fact, according to them, it's a province of China. So what is there to deter? Anyway, so let's dissect this. Both the government of the People's Republic of China and Taipei maintain that Taiwan is a part of China. So we have here a detailed map of the Republic of China, not the People's Republic of China, but the Republic of China, including all of its territorial claims and the de facto borders. And this is the keyword, de facto borders. Now you see here is the island of Taiwan. Now you also know where Taiwan is. And here you see this border, right? As you can see, it is tremendous big part of the mainland. Actually, looks like it is quite a little bit bigger. And when it comes to the sea, in the South China Sea, they want to have 11 dash line. China, the People's Republic of China, the legal owner of all that territory, says it only wants to have 9 dash. All right? So, but that's maybe for another video. But you have to understand now that in the view of the Chinese people, the West is being extremely hypocritical. And also the Philippines, because they have no problem with Taiwan laying a claim on 11 dash line, but they have a problem with the People's Republic of China claiming less than Taiwan. Just try to make that make sense, right? As you can see on this map, it is clearly. Now, what is the other part? Here it is, the Constitution of the Republic of China. In brackets, Taiwan. This is straight from the government of Taiwan, the de facto government, all right? So they have no de jure government. You need to have a de jure if you want to be a state or a country. They are de facto. The reason why that is because after the Civil War, the old leader of the Republic of China at that time, all of this was called the Republic of China, left for the island of Taiwan and occupied it. And he took the lives of everybody who he remotely thought was sympathetic to the People's Republic of China. That's what he was doing for, God knows, about 30 years. Put the entire island under a curfew and martial law. Talk about human rights abuse, right? But China is a bad guy, right? Well, I bet a lot of you didn't know this history. What his reasoning was, he wanted to regain strength and then attack the mainland again and take power of all of this, right? As you can see here. That was the goal. And here in between the island and the mainland was a fleet of the United States of America protecting them, because they at that time were in favor of Chiang Kai-shek, of the People's Republic of China, who lost the Civil War. Together with the United States, they were attacking the mainland China. All this coast was being boomed. And that was actually what was going on. Now, at that time, the People's Republic of China didn't have that military strength to recapture the island of Taiwan. However, later, the United States, as usual, decided to shift sides and started to recognize the People's Republic of China as the sole and legal owner of this whole entire territory of China. This whole territory, all right? Including Taiwan. And all the other nations started doing that. And in 1971, was it 1971 or 1972? One of the two. Resolution 2758 at the United Nations came into effect, and Chiang Kai-shek was expelled from the United Nations, and the People's Republic of China was in the United Nations. And there was declared that also the province of the island of Taiwan was a legal part of the People's Republic of China. So that's the history behind it. And that is why I understand that a lot of people would be like, what do you mean both parties, right? Both the government of the People's Republic of China and Taipei maintain that Taiwan is a part of China. With Taipei, they mean actually the Republic of China, right? But would be very confusing for them to write it in the other way. And here you see this whole map. This is what Taiwan thinks it possesses, right? Obviously, they have not, because they're only a de facto government, and basically an occupied force, so to say. And that is why it must be clear right now. I think I explained it to my best abilities. So it is clear that both the government of the People's Republic of China and Taipei maintain that Taiwan is a part of China, right? We cannot disagree on it anymore. Even their constitution says Constitution of the Republic of China, and between brackets Taiwan, because it's a province. And on their old things, on what do you put on the end of a car, the license plate, it also said province Taiwan in the past. So now we are at this other part. We held the view both at Cairo and at Potsdam that Taiwan should be restored to China. Why do they say this? So Cairo and at Potsdam, that was after the World War, because Japan had colonized Taiwan for a period of time. And obviously they lost the World War, and then they had to return all these things to all the other nations, including to China. And there you also see that they gave back Taiwan to China. They were not occupying it anymore. They took their troops away. Well, they left a little bit, and a lot of them are now being accused of manipulating the government in the de facto government, or better said, the occupying force of Taiwan. And that is what this means. We held the view both at Cairo and at Potsdam that Taiwan should be restored to China, right? And that's very important to know, because it also shows that Taiwan, there's no way, shape, or form that you can say, oh yeah, they're an independent nation. They're nothing to do with China. No, there's no way, right? I hope it's really, really clear now. And also for the people that have a little bit bias against the People's Republic of China, it is undeniable that it is a part of China, right? There's nothing to debate about at this point. And that is why they said at Cairo and at Potsdam, because that was at that time those declarations, right? That is why they say it. And here they say that view has not changed. So that means they still agree with that, right? And here they say, we think that Taiwan question is China's internal affair to be settled by the Chinese people themselves. Then the question is, why is Britain ready to fight over Taiwan? Now, this is extremely contradictory. I probably butchered that. But you can imagine that the Chinese side will not be happy with this. And there's a real problem that the people in Great Britain should know. That this right here, this part here, is what we call the one China policy, or the most important part of it, right? What does the one China policy mean? Well, as we have seen, the constitution of the regime or the occupying force of Taiwan is called the Republic of China, right? But how is the mainland called? They call it the People's Republic of China. Therefore, they call it the One China Principle, meaning they do not acknowledge the Republic of China, but acknowledge this piece here, Taiwan, as a province of China, because there's only one China. And that one China is the People's Republic of China. So that is what they mean when they say the One China Principle. And this is the most important part of it, right? Where they acknowledge it and explain it, what they acknowledge. It cannot be more clear than this, right? There's no discussion about it. So why would they say Britain ready to fight over Taiwan? Now, this is also very dangerous because Britain has a history of starting unprovoked wars of aggression against China. A history. They also have a history of colonizing China. Right? They have a history of colonizing Hong Kong, which is a part of China. They have a history of colonizing a part of Tibet. They forced the Qing dynasty to sign off a part of Tibet. That exact part is now that part which is having that territorial dispute with India. That's exactly that part, because when the Brits left, they just left. They did not return it, they just left. And at that time, China was really weak. And the people from India thought, well, that's great, we're going to take it. That's why they have that territorial dispute. Now you understand. As you also can see in this map of the Republic of China, you see they are also claiming the entire mainland, and actually a little bit more, I believe. And also in the sea, they are claiming 2 dashes more. They're claiming an 11 dash line. So this is actually for the people in the West, they need to start to understand this. Why is it that, for example, the Philippines has a problem with China claiming a 9 dash line, but has no problem with Taiwan claiming 11 dash line? That's very contradictory, right? Just start to understand, because then you understand the geopolitical game. The whole game is how it being set in place like a chessboard, right? Now you can understand that the Philippines is nothing more than just a pawn on the chessboard that is going to be sacrificed to capture the king in China. That's what they're going to do. That is exactly what they want. That is also why they are making all this propaganda and trying to convince you that Taiwan is an independent country and that China is a bully and just wants to expand. It's an expansionist. It is warmongering, yada, yada, yada. But let us be really, really clear here. When did you hear China warmongering? And please don't play me a simple clip. China has always maintained a very, very same position when it comes to Taiwan. They've always said, we can wait 100 years for peaceful reunification. We want nothing more better than peaceful reunification. However, we will not shy away from military action under 2 circumstances. One, if the de facto or occupying regime in Taiwan declares independence, then they will call for military action. And 2, if foreign forces are interfering in that process? Well, as we can see right here on the screen, that's interfering. As you can see, the United States also does it, Australia, and all the usual suspects of NATO, including Japan. Now you can start to understand that is kind of weird. So the Philippines has no problem with Taiwan having an 11- line, but it has a problem with China having a 9- line, and is bolstering up, militarizing, and start provoking China to get them in a war. They're trying to sever Taiwan from China, because otherwise you wouldn't be saying that you're ready to fight over Taiwan. What does it mean if Taiwan is a part of China, right? The government of the United Kingdom acknowledged the position of the Chinese government that Taiwan is a province of the People's Republic of China. There's nothing we can say about that, right? So all that China can think about at this point is, okay, they want war. Everything points that the West wants to have a war with China. And the Philippines is a pawn, and the island of Taiwan is also a pawn. Meanwhile, the people in Great Britain are suffering because their government isn't taking care of them, because they're creating funds to start a war against China, an unprovoked war of aggression over a province that they recognize as a part of the People's Republic of China. I want to have the Brits to understand the following. A lot of times, they are accusing China of being aggressive because it is holding a military drill. But when the UK and the other NATO states, which are actually the most aggressive states in the entire world at this moment, with the United States at its peak, they are holding drills in the South China Sea, right? Let's get a map right here, right? In front of the coast of China. They are constantly sailing their warship here. So close that the people living in the cities that are near the sea can actually see the warships of the West. Yet, if the People's Republic of China says, well, we need to start to defend ourselves because Britain is ready to fight over Taiwan, which is our island, also according to them. So we need to strengthen our army, and we need to do some military drills right here in the South China Sea. What will they say? Then the UK says we need to deter them in the key allies in the region over tensions involving Taiwan. But at the same time, they say we think that the Taiwan question is China's internal affair to be settled by the Chinese people themselves. Hypocrisy? Honestly, how would you guys feel if the foot was on the other, or the shoe was on the other foot? If this was the UK and China and Russia, Iran and North Korea were constantly sailing right in front of your shores, that your people could see it when they are there at the shore, and are sending messages that they are ready to fight over London. How would you perceive it? And then they would accuse you for being aggressive. So I made this video just to make a couple of things clear, and I hope it is really, really clear now for the people, especially for the Brits. And I hope that your government will stop this warmongering and start investing in the people. I want the Brits also to understand that your tax money is not meant to start unprovoked wars of aggression. What do you think you're going to gain? Well, I'm going to tell you what you are going to win. They're going to send your kids to that war. And they're most likely never going to return home because China has been preparing for this ever since 1949. In fact, it's a promise of the Communist Party of China that they will never ever be invaded ever again. They will fight to the end. And they have said it. We don't want war, but if you want to have war, we will fight to the end. They said it to the United States, the most military powerful country in the world, a while ago. In this most literal fashion, just tell us what kind of war you want to have. If you want to have a trade war, we fight to the end. You want to have a hot war, we fight to the end. Any war, we will fight to the end. But obviously, before that, they were saying, we don't want that war. But if you start one, we will fight to the end. China isn't the same as 1839, that it had a weak military. Why is that? Because it didn't went through that whole history of all these countries invading them in a span of 100 years or so. So now they have that history. And the Communist Party of China has said it will never happen again. They will go to the end. And for the people in England that don't understand what Chinese people mean by the end, we don't say these things lightly. What we mean by the end is the actual end. We don't mind going to the end. All right? I'm sorry to say that, but I need to wake you guys up. Your tax money is not meant for that. Your tax money is meant to build you great infrastructure, to help you develop, to get better schooling, to get better healthcare, to have an affordable life for the people of England. But yet they are taking your money, and I think without your consent, but that's up for the people in England to decide. But I don't think that many English people are likely to be very, very happy to send their children over to the South China Sea, thousands of miles from their home, to be shot at with Chinese missiles from the mainland. And that is something for the English people to start to think before they're getting all happy about Britain ready to fight over Taiwan. I think it is time for you guys to open your mouth, get off that couch before it is too late. Because in an event of war, China will go to the end. Also, mind you, it is one of the biggest trading partner that there is. And also, here is a lot of trade going. The entire world will turn against you because, as you can see clearly, according to the exchange of ambassadors, 13 March 1972, I will link it in the description. It is a war, an unprovoked war of aggression against China. Your government itself says, we think that the Taiwan question is China's internal affair to be settled by the Chinese people themselves. These are not my words. These are not the words of the People's Republic of China. These are the words of your government. Just think about it. And let me know what you all think of it in the comment section. Please keep it respectful. Your favorite half Chinese, please like, share, and if you have not yet, please follow. Please follow. Thank you. Have a great day. Your favorite half Chinese.